Hello. Happy Friday.
GM.
Yes.
Happy Friday. How are you?
Good to see you, dude. It's good. I'm good. It's nice. We're on episode 20, and it's finally not super cold in the studio garage space.
Oh, yeah, it's almost summertime. I would say it's actually summertime. It looks beautiful outside, and I'm excited to be here today. This is episode 20. Can you believe it?
I can't. I'm happy. We're doing it, man. Episode 20. We're gonna early on, my wife said, maybe stop calling out every episode just how many episodes you've done. I was like,
well,
but
tell
it's
her
exciting.
Too bad.
It's exciting. You know what? She can do a show.
It's for the people that aren't looking and they can only listen. It's important that we tell them the episode number so that for no real reason. No, we're excited. I'm excited for today's guest. And I'm excited. It's going to be a fun one.
It is going to be fun.
It's a real deep dive. I'm talking about process. This guy's got good process.
This guy's got an incredible process and just unfairly talented. Like, I think it's fair to say.
I think it's fair.
Yeah, very fair to say. Let's just get him up here and then let's kick this off. Everybody, welcome to the show, Andres Del Vecchio.
Oh my God!
Whoa! It's so dark all of a sudden. Whoa!
Hang on, the automatic lights just turned off.
That's okay. You got it. Hold on. There you go.
Yeah.
There we go.
You got him set on the clapper.
That was so nice. That was very theatrical, and there's no coincidence. There's only providence in my world.
I mean, from the man who's very familiar with darker art, and the macabre, you need to have a dark
I like that
entrance.
you said the macabre. I never consider it that way, but it's also, I know who I am until somebody tells me exactly what's true. It's like, this is very shadowy. Like,
I mean,
you say spooky art.
It's valid. Art. I know it's very valid. It's very valid.
Mm-hmm.
It is definitely macabre.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a darkness and a beauty in that darkness. Like, and I really mean it when I say unfairly talented. Like, you mostly work in oil paints, right? Like, that's like your world. But you also you scan, you take photos, you do things a little digitally, but
never consistently.
Not consistent, never consistently, really. So,
dude, you only have when it comes to scanners are a whole other conversation. But it's like sometimes you have access to things, and sometimes you don't, and you have to take advantage when you do. So,
do you prefer scanner or camera?
I have to say, I've never been good at documenting my work, and I usually rely on other people.
Okay.
So, like, when it comes to having a great photographer with a really expensive camera, that usually does an absolute just boon. My fiance Dina, she does the photography for all of my paintings, but we did have access to this guy with like a 2x4 codename Kids Next Door type like scanner, like made of wood blocks and light and magic.
Whoa.
And so that was some of the best work that I'd gotten documented. But to be fair, it came out a little glossy. So that was something that happened there. But I like a good camera with a good lens, especially in the hands of someone I love, and that loves my work usually means that it comes out great. So that's the case.
Well, then
awesome.
there's a probably good reason you're getting married. That's it. That's the
she saves my life every day. I don't know what else to say.
Tag team, power couple.
That's awesome. I love that. Let's
awesome. So I mean, talking about your work, which I would say is on the more traditional side of guests we've had on the show. I assume you have a background in traditional art and kind of the process. And would you say you paint in the same styles like the old masters with like that process?
I definitely had an upset. So I started painting when I was about 14. I've always been a draftsman. So we're here downstairs in the my pseudo studio. This is the lounge of the apartment building that I live in, and nobody comes down here, so I just get to set up shop at will. But what I really do is I love keeping pretty solid sketchbook. Like this was my first love, was like drawing.
That's
And
a thick sketchbook too.
Wow.
it's
Yeah.
I have a lot of like unfinished things, but usually what happens is I'll start with like drawing first. This really like centers me more than anything else, and I've been doing this since I was a kid. Like this was my meditation before I knew what meditation was. And was in high school. A very, very good art teacher, is a South African woman named Melanie Cohen, who was very sweet, if a little bit gossipy. Immediately knew, she was like, I need to get you painting. And she got me painting pretty quickly and introduced me to a couple of concepts that have stayed with me. The importance of mixing your own medium, mixing your own palette, and especially using limitations to palette and thinking rhythmically to painting. I definitely, I like being rules oriented, and I like, I like the tradition appealed to me immensely. So I come from two cultures that are mired in tradition. It's like part of me is I'm born in Venezuela, so I'm Latin American. Like there's a tradition of literally everything: dance, music, art, you name it. And then I'm Jewish, so for me that's tradition. So like it's for me that it appealed greatly to learn systems very quickly, and painting without Miss Cohen would have been an incredible labyrinth that I see a lot of people get stuck in, because the first thing that she taught me was for palette. She's like, you really only need like three colors, darling. Like that's all you need. You need three colors and a white. Like make it easy on yourself. You can create an entire rainbow from that. And then she also just like use maybe 3 to 5 brushes, alternate like every couple strokes. It was this percussive way of rhythmic way of painting. And that translated even as I later became more educated, right? I ended up wasting a few years in art school before doing a more traditional apprenticeship for like 6 months in Italy, in Florence, where I learned under what are called I've seen it called copyists. The way they called it is like pasticheurs. They're literally professional artists, where what they do is, for Italians, they create fakes to protect cultural patrimony. In Italy, the law is that if you have a house that has a famous painting in the collection, you have to have that painting available for anyone with a 2-week notice. So having any just be able to have access, you need to have a fake at the ready, and the other one needs to go into cold storage.
Wow.
So
Interesting.
I learned under that family, and they taught me like the full thing of like how to create skin that looks like marble, and how to just beautiful foliage. Literally, my whole assignment for 6 months was to copy a painting by Correggio called "The Education of Cupid," which is a painting of the goddess Aphrodite, the god Hermes, and their son Cupid, which was wonderful for me because I love classical mythology. But it was eye-opening to be under someone that had been painting since they were maybe 5 or 6 years old. And
you spent 6 months on one piece?
Just one piece, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Turning a piece of canvas into like gessoing properly, combining glue and white pigment in a hot pot essentially, and then like making it so that this canvas had no ridges, something I've yet to master even by myself, and like make it completely flat and taut as a drum. And
Wow.
everything from mixing pigments and onwards, which was a lot of busy work. But yeah, I love the tradition. It was really cool. I'm only breaking it down maybe over the last couple of years into my own thing, in something more, I guess, impressionistic maybe.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, Adam, maybe bring up some of his work so that people can...
Let's do it. Yeah. I mean, I'm just, I'm fascinated by the process and just listening, to everything that he's saying. So here, let's take a look here. This piece, an affable auction in the plane of spirits and idealized forms, which is just a beautiful title. Beautiful.
That's so cool.
Look at this work, man. What okay, so I wouldn't even know where to begin.
Where do we start?
We start with sketching, I would imagine, right? In that sketchbook you had.
Let's start by winding the clocks back to fall of 2021. Okay. Think about where you were during fall of 2021. Just like think about that, especially in context to the space, in context to what's making money, in context to the bull, in context to everything, right? And who you're being associated with. For me, I was maybe a better way of starting it is, it was a dark and stormy night, which was very common in South Florida, as it being a dark and stormy night day where cars are being flooded in the streets and things are just floating down busy thoroughfares. And I'm watching Seinfeld and I get a phone call. And of course, right, cinematically, thunder cracking down in the background. And it's my dad. And my dad is the one who I think really introduced me to paintings proper in like a museum, like taking me to really cool places. Particularly when I was a kid, we'd go from Disney World to, say, in Orlando, all the way road trip to St. Petersburg, go to the Dali Museum and spend time there. And he would point out the little bits of trivia and the Where's Waldo of what everything means. The thrill of the discovery in those paintings still like is very important to me. And he calls me, and he's been kind of on the run from alimony, which is very funny. So he's just like, I'm not gonna pay more alimony. I'm gonna go to Spain. And so he's calling me from Spain. And he says, Andresito, I want to invite you out. Come here. I want to take a father-son road trip with you. We're gonna go from Barcelona all the way to Cadaqués and Port de Gat, and we're gonna go visit Salvador Dali's museum. Then we're gonna go visit his house. And suddenly go from stormy Miami to Barcelona to Cadaqués to the museum. The museum is beautiful. The town that surrounds it is also incredibly cute, and the region is really beautiful. But like the museum itself is this big red building with golden eggs on the top, with a courtyard on the inside, with statues ringed with golden statues looking at this beautiful car, and all of the artwork you can imagine that would blow your mind. And when you see many beautiful things in a row, I think that there's a tendency to get really, really just kind of bored, especially if they're the same thing, whether they're drawings or paintings. Eventually, they start losing their luster. I was passing through the halls, having lost that luster, and suddenly I found myself in a bedroom. And it's this red and gold and like earth tone bedroom with all this artwork on the walls. And I look to the side of the bed, this one image hits me. And it's this incredible found object sculpture of a female gorilla skeleton, spray painted gold, right, with a Mary, the Christian iconography, right, of like the Mother of God, like right in the womb. It was this stone cracked statue in the womb of this gorilla, and I was totally blown away. Because remember, it's fall of 2021. So apes are pumping, pumps are pumping. Like there's all this just strange culture. And I'm just like, how is it that this, of all the pieces that could exist in this museum, there's this one piece that is like perfectly encapsulating this moment of like degenerate gambling, PFPs, fine art, right? Casino, museum, this like human condition of like, just like, I don't know what, just like animal consciousness and artifice meeting together. It really haunted me. Like I almost couldn't breathe, right? And there were many other things in that museum beside that nobody talks about, that nobody's seen, that nobody thinks about. Lots of cool things with computer chips and 3D rendering that just nobody talks about with Salvador Dali. But that statue gripped me. And I was like, well, I have to paint this. And so it was immediately went home, found the first available piece of wooden panel that I had, which happened to be very small. This painting is very small, which is also funnily in the vein of Salvador Dali, of a 12 by 16 painting.
And that always surprised me anytime I saw a Dali in person. Just the fact that they're so incredibly detailed and small.
I love his small works. I love the big works. I think that for me is like having that range is really important. But I love the like Jupiter diamond intensity of those small pieces. And I was like, I'm going to create something in that vein, in that size. Immediately, the first things that came to be in this painting were the skeleton in the center, the head in its womb of the Mary. If you look to the right, ensconced in that Capitol building that's there, that's seemingly on fire in the city of Dis, is this auctioneer. You can see his gavel. The ETH diamond to the right, and the I guess technically that's the other thing to the right of that is a little, what I thought was, I didn't see Sol had a symbol, but I was like Solana, so I was like, I'll put that there, and then couldn't figure out a way to do Bitcoin that wasn't too on the nose, so I just left And initially, the entirety of the picture was the drawing was an interior. It was an auction. It was like an auction for the human spirit by spirits and elementals and demons. You know, like that was what I wanted to do. I was like, I need to do this. I need to do this experience of the chaos and the joy and the bacchanal of like the moment I was living in, selling art in Web3, right? And just like putting things up, right? And having people come in and out, buying and selling and appreciating and commentating. And I needed that. Over time, it began to change. So that was, remember, fall of 2021. I only finished this painting, I think recently now, in maybe like December, January, or February of 2024. So
Wow.
yeah, a lot shifted. I think first it was that the interior shifted. So like the first thing to come together was the sky. I was like, if this is in an afterworld, if this is in some idealized plane of existence that's a mirror to what I'm going through and what I'm seeing, what I'm experiencing, then I need to start adding in more of that afterworld. So I began first with like, well, where would this take place? So I was like, what are places in fiction that are like afterworlds that I like? And I really loved Dante's Inferno and its city of Dis. Even though it's not really ever really described as a city, it's more like another level in the video game that you enter and people are just being tortured. I was like, no, this is a city. Like this is a place, people live here. You go get coffee here, you go hang out, you go eat. Like these are not scary places. These are places where, again, this joy of discovery exists in the poem too. And I was like, I'm going to add this in. And as soon as I started doing that, I was like, why don't I make this an idealized plane? Let's keep it very Western, esoteric. Let's add in more of the elements as we go on. So immediately from the sky, you have fire and air, right?
Yeah.
You have the building, you have a little bit of earth, right? I knew eventually that I would add water to the scene, and all these elements have different associations, right? It's like earth is the body and wealth, water is like memory and fantasy, air is thought, fire is passion, right? So on and so forth. There are a million and one things you could do with it, but I wanted to make sure that I had that in there. And suddenly the scene just began to shift and change and change and change. Like the audience that you see here, like it went from the sky down to the right, where suddenly now you had this audience around all these different little objects, people holding paddles for the auction, different sprites and elementals and beings that ostensibly were either the dead, which were, it's like the dead coming into this weird plane that's somewhere between an afterworld and a dream world, and the elementals and demons and spirits that are native to it. So I wanted to make sure that it was this very varied ecosystem. And again, while it's very intense, I wanted it to seem like very fun as well, because again, it's a reflection of what I was living in at the time, which was late night spaces and hanging out and all-time highs and this and that and the other, and hanging out with your friends at 4 o'clock in the morning, talking nonsense. Like I wanted it all to feel that way. And yeah, I just kind of crawled around the scene. I think the thing that I added next was if you look to the top left, there is a devil figure playing guitar as well. I wanted to maintain.
Oh, right here.
Yeah, which I added maybe a year or a year and a half or so into the painting, after painting a piece called The Devil. Right, so I wanted to create a psychopomp that would be kind of like the authority, right? The Bugs Bunny of the picture magician. I was like, so I made this painting, a painting that belongs to Lloyd, and I was like, I'm gonna add this character into this ecosystem, this mythology, and just make sure that let's add an element of sound. Like let's add an element of like, you can live in this space, you can hear it even more so. And just kept going onwards and onwards. And I think the final thing that got added finally were the two demon ladies in the front, because which again I wanted to add an element of taste and enjoyment and sensuality, with their floating cups of what I'm assuming is blood champagne. I don't know, like take your pick. I wanted to add that element of taste, the elements of sound, all these sensorial touches, and past that, yeah, it was just the addition of these different types of characters. Like where you're scrolling in now, one of the most interesting characters in this scene to me, like you have this kind of soldier character here with the light coming out of his head, which I find very fascinating. But I always loved this character here that is kind of like coming apart at the seams with multiple heads, and behind her or him is the auctioneer, right? Like these are my dead souls, differentiating them from the other native inhabitants of this place. And I don't know, they were maybe the most fun to paint, the most distorted. Like I like to think of other worlds as places where human consciousnesses are both native and not. We're very grounded in materiality, and the idea being that if you're in this idealized place, if you're like, let's say, in this living hallucinatory state, reconfiguring yourself to a body would require conscious thought, as opposed to the natives, who have much more of like, even though their forms are fantastical, they're very like they're very concrete in that way. So yeah, it was just very fun to construct this entire setup. Very
Yeah.
fun to construct each character.
I mean, it's gorgeous, right? Like, it just, I wish I found the link sooner so we could have been zooming in the whole time. But I got it. But just getting lost in it, and also the appreciation for your use of light and shadow, and so, and it also, there's so much going on in here. But that's really fascinating to hear that it kind of like, since it took so long to make, you went back in and revisited this piece over time, to really kind of, I guess your experiences would change the way things worked in here. Would you say you reworked sections over time, and like, or would you just keep adding to, or
if I had hair left to pull out, I would have pulled it out multiple times during the painting. I think that the area that maybe took different areas took more time depending, which I find fascinating. Like if you look at the sky was one of those things that I wanted to construct with a lot of intention. There's an area towards the middle, just above the missing link ape skeleton, that like I wanted to make sure that there were these like rays of light, kind of like those Gustave Doré paint woodblock prints with like heaven and like higher states of consciousness. I wanted to make sure that ray of light was at least noticeable. This idea of like, and as I constructed this painting, right, because starting with the fiery background, I wanted to make sure that that like this is one level of a reality that I'm constructing that climbs all the way up to a sort of super consciousness, right? It's like this is just one level where you can participate with individual consciousness. And as I went along with the painting, I wanted that to be something that characters could either choose to interact with or not interact with, and viewers could interact with or not interact with. So if you look at this particular section with the beast-headed demons, and you look up, you see that one of them has its hand raised, and is the only one that's interacting with this fiery sky. So if you just go up to that hand, the hand is literally disappearing into non-existence as it reaches up to this like monadic, single-pointed consciousness there. And for me, that was not something that I had from the jump going into this painting. Like that was something that I wanted to do, right? Another portion that took me quite a long time, that I agonized, I think, for a good solid week, were the golden demonettes that are in the front there, drinking their blood champagne or whatever. Was their backs, was to maintain like sensuality and physicality on their backs, and also maintain like a vivid fauvist color that also again echoed the sky and echoed these elements. It was very much on purpose. This painting was really frustrating and very fun, all at once. Putting together these characters and making it both chaotic and balanced is a trial. It was a lot to run through over the past 3 or so years, but I love how it came out.
It turned out amazing. I mean, yeah, it's really cool diving through. I mean, there's parts of it that remind me of in my opinion, some of the best painters, like the auctioneer reminds me almost of like Francis Bacon, where there's like horrific, destroyed face, and then the especially the sky and the fantasy elements remind me of like Frank Frazetta, and kind of have that kind of fantasy world feel to it. And so,
Sure.
I mean, I see this is so chained to so much, you know, historical art in my mind, even though those are kind of like more recent artists.
No, they are. You honor me, man. Seriously, I love Frazetta. Frazetta's a magician. There are some beautiful paintings by Frazetta. There's one of a Conan the Barbarian type character who kills a spider, and the spider is literally transforming into this abstracted goo, and you're like, this guy is more than just an illustrator for sure. This guy is truly a painter. But it's funny that you mentioned comic books, and that you mentioned I love Francis. There's a book about Francis Bacon that I have on in the studio pretty much all the time. I love his attitude towards money. I love his attitude towards chance. I love his attitude towards distortion.
Yeah.
But the way that those figures are, I think he did influence comic books more than we're willing to admit or willing to look into. There's a comic book that I was reading around 2022 called The Nice House on the Left. And the artist that was on that, I believe it was written by James Tynion, the third or the fourth, I forget which one he is. But like the comic book literally centers on these people survive an apocalypse in this beautiful heavenly space that they're given, and they are essentially held prisoner there without knowing what's going on in the outside world by their friend, who is a shape-shifting. Is he an alien? Is he an angel? Is he a devil? And whenever he is struck or loses control of his emotions, he has that Baconian, like, just like everything is just the human being as a maelstrom, you know, as a multiplicity too that can be distorted. I love Francis. I love that comic book, and that definitely came into play here as far as like distorting the figure and how to distort.
Yeah, especially the skull in the middle. I feel like that expression reminds me of like the Pope paintings that Bacon did.
Yep, that was not something I wish I could take credit for inventing that. That was something that I took wholesale from the Golden Gorilla.
Oh wow, okay.
But you still chose the angle, you know.
I mean, you know,
creating the dynamic of looking out to the sky. It focuses the viewer to look away, you know.
Yeah, that like birth scream, birth song, you know, like death song. Like for me, the sound of this painting is as important as the way.
Yeah, it's booming.
Yeah, it just feels like I can only imagine what it sounds like, you know. I can only imagine with the crowd and with the water and with the fire and with the air and all these people talking
and the guitar.
Wailing. But you know, I figure that's some flamenco jam, you know. But that's only because that was what I was learning on guitar at the time. Is like fingerstyle guitar.
That's cool.
Yeah. I love music. Very important to me.
It'd be amazing to find a composer willing to write a piece from this.
I mean, my two off the top of my head, because it's not the first time that I've thought about this. And this is me without removing my ego, because I'm not a good enough guitarist. Is Abel Okugawa, and I can't stop thinking about Eclectic Method lately. What does that look like? What does that sound like? You know, like they're both absolute wizards.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Those would be my ideal of like what could happen in interpreting. I mean, I've seen people interpret everything, you know, abstractions, right? You know, from the MoMA, right? Taking a jazz musician and sitting them in front of a Pollock or something, and just like what occurs.
Yeah,
the fan of that interpretation is amazing.
Very, very awesome, man. You're the kind of artist that you know, if we were going to do a 4-hour show, I would just say, you'd be the first person to call. We're going to move in a moment to the show and tell part of the show, but like just before we do, I just want to give anybody, if someone is new to your work and want to take a look here, I highly encourage everyone to go and deep dive into your work, because it's all just so ephemeral and it just like I get very excited when there's new work that you put out, because it's just, there's an essence to it, if that makes sense. And this piece here, I sat with this piece when you first put this out, and you were showing us, like, in progress versions of this. It just
Yes.
somehow kept getting better,
Oh, thank you, man.
and so, yeah, and then this is your latest piece, right? Um,
Yes. So this is
it's
Hecate. So a lot of
gorgeous.
pieces, thank you. A lot of these pieces, a lot of times when I paint, I it's so funny. It's like I always change my mind on how to describe things, but most recently, the idea being like that these are, one-way mirrors for me and the world around me and the world that I'm living in right now, whether that's crypto art or literally like where I'm living right now in Nashville, or like living in Miami or living in New York or whatever, or things that I'm going through, right? Sometimes it's a two-way mirror where it's like it's for me, it's my way of interfacing with something like another world, right? Like this
Mm,
particular painting is a painting of like a painting of a patron goddess of mine. So, like I said, I'm Jewish, but I'm also Jewish. So it's like I'm more of a magician. Like I like playing around and hopping around spiritual systems and seeing what works and seeing what can alter my reality and what can alter my perception. And I found that when it comes to painting and meditation, like sitting in front of a painting, much like sitting in front of a tarot card, it affects the altered state significantly. And if you're working with a kind of like, a consciousness, a deity, or a spirit or an ancestor, having a work of art at least enables me, your mileage may vary, to really enter that space, right? Enter that space in a ritualized kind of way. So as within, so without was that way. Musica Universalis was that way. Hecate here is 100% that way. I have multiple paintings of the triple goddess, um, in my house and across my practice. But to me, it's like this particular triple goddess, Hecate, is a goddess of the moon. It's a goddess of the unconscious. She's a guide through the underworld, which to me is again just another weird mishmash of like unconscious as something extra. And I always, for some reason, associated her with Marilyn Monroe. I have paintings where she comes out a little bit different. I remember there's one painting down on my super rare where she's three old ladies molding this house out of the ether. But like Marilyn Monroe, for me, is like the lunar like avatar. I don't know why that is,
mm.
but like it's been that way since I think 2017 when I first did ayahuasca and accidentally. Oh yeah, I was the full moon in the
That's the
Peruvian.
answer.
It was full moon Peruvian mountains. The shaman was this English guy who was a hermetic magician, and he didn't necessarily invoke her, but I spoke to him after, and she was like, "Yeah, this is someone that I invoke early and often." And what happened was that it was the night where I essentially broke free out of the circle of people, like vomiting and having vision quests. Is like I ran outside into the courtyard of the hacienda I was in, and it was a full moon, and seeing the full moon on a hallucinogen of that strength is incredibly potent, and it affected that night and the night after. And the night after was where it was like the full vision quest and like meeting some semblance of this entity, in a quasi real space, and she appeared as a luminescent, difficult to look at, like combination of Marilyn Monroe and the moon and the snake. It's very, very odd. So what I really have always wanted to kind of get that out of whatever image that I make of her, and it seems to have worked really well in this case. I wanted her to be a bit both welcoming and uncanny. It's being underneath the moon at night. It's where spirits feel. You're afraid to encounter something very, very strange. I wanted to make sure that you got that feeling looking at this painting.
I
Yeah.
definitely think it comes through. And I'm really grateful that we're able to have conversations with you about this stuff, because I think that it's rare to be able to tune into an artist and really fully kind of dive into their thoughts in terms of where their head was at when they came up with things, and sort of where they come from. So yeah, I mean, I want to thank you for this, because this has been really cool to see sort of like, um A lot of things kind of click after hearing,
Yeah.
most artists, but you especially in this context, like things kind of click once you get the
Hopefully, I'm
bigger
not
picture.
giving away too much. It's just
No, no, yeah, you're still keeping plenty of the magic. Don't
Yeah.
worry. I
No,
have.
I
Yeah.
don't think 99% of viewers aren't going to be able to paint the way you
Oh,
paint. So don't worry.
okay.
No. But speaking of other artists trying to paint the way you paint or anyone paints, there's some other artists that we should focus on to take a look and do a little show and tell. What do you
Let's
say?
do it.
So let's kick it off. This is the part of the
I'm
show
excited.
where each of us has brought art from other artists, and we're just going to kind of run through and talk about some people we think are amazing who could use a bit of a lift. So here's a little show and tell. That is maybe the first time that I played that it is so disconnected.
But I liked it. I was a big fan.
And
Oh,
as let's get in.
I'm gonna stand up for this one.
Oh, Brian's testing out his standing desk. Okay, here we
Nice.
go. Gonna do a little OG Crooked West style. Okay, he's hyped. He's hyped. Here we go. All right. You know what? I'm gonna kick it off here with a piece that Andres brought. That
Oh, man,
one,
which one will
two,
it be?
three. It's going to be this piece right here. Oop, if it loads.
Oh,
From Anubis.
Oh, cool.
3100. It, as far as I know, is currently I'm going to say untitled because I didn't find a title for it, but I Am Things, Coins, and Dreams is a piece that you picked. Very cool, very beautiful.
if I'm not mistaken, and this is the part that I do kind of love also about Anubis is so if I remember correctly, the proper title, which he does not include in his posts, is "It Came to Me in a Dream." Which to me highlights a lot of what I love about Anubis's work. Anubis, just for context, an Egyptian artist. He lives in Canada. We've been very, very good friends. I think from the inception of the entire space, we've worked together, collaborated together. We're fucking yeah. The three artists that I chose are some of my best friends in the space. The only people that I can say that I talk to.
That's allowed.
I mean, I feel like talk to Adam like all the time, and Brian. I know you're like we talk in between different chats, but like these are my
yeah. We're talking almost daily. Yeah,
this is my like Discord call. Oh, it's the boys, like it's that. So Anubis was my first friend in this space, and I fell in love with his work immediately. He does have a traditional background, and a lot of his work for me is rooted in memory and planes of memory. Cultural memory. Just remember, he's Muslim, he's Egyptian. It's a very particular, very specific identity within the broader Muslim world. It is attached to classical antiquity. It is attached to memories of colonialism, and as well also memories of being an immigrant and like living in these different multiple realities. A lot of his work has to do with that, and if you go through his Super Rare, his foundation, you'll find the depth and breadth of his work includes drawings, paintings, AI, and in this case, this is digital. A lot of this is digital collage with a lot of various assets that are very internet and fantasy culture dominant, right? It's like if you look at this particular painting, you do have the fine art background coming in with the grape and leaf, like exterior, like boundary of the frame, but on the inside, crystals, apples, like all this magic. You have the kind of like the twitchiness of like glitch. To me, is like this is very, for me, Anubis is very all my friends that I've chosen here are just like in the painting that we showed, is like I think of people a lot of times in terms of the hermetic Western elements. And I think of Anubis in particular very potent as far as the water element is concerned, right? Like this is to do with memory and a distant plane of memory, or not so distant plane of memory.
Yeah.
I love this piece. I love the light. I love the motion. I love how divine it feels. Like it just gives me a great sense of peace and also sense of cheekiness. Like the phrase is ridiculous. Like I am things, coins, and dreams. You're like, what the fuck? Like there. It's like there's a tongue in cheekness to this, and a lot of his more recent work as well, and almost all of his work that I
I
love.
love it.
Yeah, he's
To
awesome.
me, I know it isn't, but it feels like those like 90s foil stickers that would be
Yeah.
slightly embossed, you know, like I want to
Yep.
touch it. It's very nice.
The hologram.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's something really nice, you know.
Yeah.
It's
The texture is really there.
Yeah, especially using the glitch effect. Gives it sort of that like that glittery feeling.
Yep.
Like you're describing.
Yep.
Very cool, man. Well, I'm going to keep things moving. We have Brian. You're up next with
Ooh. Oh yeah.
Ascension.
So this is
From the
Panther Zeta.
12. Mm-hmm.
This is I wanted to highlight this piece. One, I think it's a beautiful piece, digital painting. But also, I just wanted to give Panther a real shout out. She put together this thing called the 12, where she invited 12 collectors to join basically a round table of patronage, where she said, I'm only going to create work for these 12 collectors for a year. You can buy in, you'll get an edition every 2 months and a single one of one piece that's custom made for you. And that allowed her to basically make her money up front, as you would with like a Kickstarter. And now she only has to worry about delivering art on a bi-monthly basis, which I think is just a really smart move. And I think this is a beautiful first piece to start the collection.
I think that I thought I saw that idea after the fact, learning about it, and I think it's a really cool model that I would not be surprised if other people kind of go with that or some variation of it. You just you have to have built up a bit of a collector base, obviously, but I think that's a really great way to connect with your core audience deeper and take some of the pressure. I mean, I'm sure it's different kinds of pressure, right? But being really comfortable with your audience at that point, I think is really cool that they just, can trust in your vision. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's not an unheard. But the thing is, it's so funny because it's not an unheard of similar practices in web. God, it's so stupid. The traditional art world. I'm not gonna say that. All right, nobody can pay me enough to do it. But like in the traditional art world, alternative means of pay is a very big thing, right? You're especially as a painter and illustrator. Some artists developed everything from like mystery boxes, right? Like like the artist that lived in Long Island is like, oh, if you subscribe, you'll get this ephemera from my studio, whether it's a drawing or maybe like a big buildup of like paint, right? It's like, oh, it's this or that, and you're gonna get this, and you're gonna pay me this for this subscription model, so you have this ephemera there.
Yep.
Not quite a piece, but
Yep.
it's there. But Zeta is just crazy. This reminds me very much of the different ladies that are attached fairly and unfairly to surrealism and the men around it. I'm trying to think of exactly who I'm thinking of. It'll come to me later. A guy I always think of Leonora Carrington or Feeney or Vero, and like it's the woman and nature, and also a woman's body and like occult elements, like a candle, right? Like I really love the light in this painting. I love the way that everything seems to be growing around it. I'm super curious about the stuff that's on the head. I love when
I believe those are like inflatable rafts, like you see in a
like,
pool.
oh,
Yeah.
earth and water. Okay, cool. So we're earth, water, air, fire. Everything's in here. Everything that I could possibly love is in here. But like, yeah, I always love when an artist that clearly has a command of anatomy and the figure, when they obscure the head. It's always a very deliberate choice, and always a deliberate choice in how they obscure consciousness in that way, or thought, right? So doing this with something like an inflatable, like a buoy at a a water park, like that has so many implications to me, on top of what's like growing off of her on, I believe those are mushrooms, right? Mushrooms and these like these different weeds.
Mhm.
like the overgrowth is so cool, man. Yeah, I love it. It does things for me, this painting.
All right. It is it's very cool. I'm going to move into a different painter next. And I know we have we're a little short on time for Brian, so I'm going to keep going with some of Brian's choices just in case.
Oh, we can keep moving through. Oh, okay, we'll do this one. Yeah,
Might as
Sasha
well.
Katz. I think this is just an awesome piece. And Sasha's an artist. You know, this is a 3D piece, but it looks like it could be a painting. You know, it's so well rendered. I just love this piece. I think it reminds me of my own cats when you want to give them a kiss and then they balk at you. But I think her work is just so fun, and this piece, you know, I go back to it often because it brings me a lot of joy. But yeah, I think it really kind of blurs that line of classical painting in 3D.
Wow. The detail in it is incredible. Like this right there. Just like this
Wild.
the choice to have, you know, that just all of it, right? Like it does feel very painterly.
Sasha's a master, though.
It's
Say
gorgeous.
Sasha's cheating,
Yeah.
like another just master in your midst that you just like. Yeah, I like the thing about this is not just, you know, a 3D artist becoming, you know, like and the painterliness of the style of a great 3D artist, but also the universal theme. Like, you know, most of us have pets, right? I was talking to he used to go by Moon Sun Diamond. Now he goes by Nearbound, another great painter and multimedia artist. And we were talking about images that we liked, and he was like, "Look, like images that I like and images that I see that are just like, you know, that touch the human spirit are these beautiful universal expressions and moments." You know, it's like we were talking about, you know, like being in love, like walking down a particular street, and like, you know, like this piece. I keep getting so tempted to call it a painting. To me, it has everything there, from like the blackness of the hair, of how it goes from like the minimal detail of the light shining down into just this negative space of the hair coming down the shoulders. Like it's just so awesome, and I can hear her cooing at the cat. I can hear the cat
Yes.
yowling or talking, and sweetly doing it too, like is pushing off the chest or coming closer, you don't know. Like I've been there with every animal that I've ever had acquaintance with, and it's just a beautiful moment. Like hard to capture with animal art also. You know, I'm sure you guys have seen like terrible animal and pet art, you know, or like really or like, you know, really sad, like kind of dead looking pieces, but this is very living. Like this feels like a little snapshot, like very eternal moment. That, you know, God, if only to capture one of those at least once is such an achievement.
Yeah. Good stuff, man. Good share.
Good stuff.
All right, then
Very good.
I guess I'll. So what I did this week a little bit differently. It was take your kid to work day yesterday.
I used to love those.
Yeah, well, I remember going to an office, but this is my office. So my kid
That's true.
got to stay home, and of the things that I did with him, I said, "Look, I'm preparing for the show tomorrow, and I usually pick out 3 pieces of artwork. But you know what? You're here, you can help me." And so these pieces that I picked are actually picks that he picked. And I had never heard of some of these artists, but here they are. And I'm, you know, I gave him a couple of websites to go through, and this is what he picked.
Did Adam just become Poppy Goals? Did that happen all at once? Fuck. Oh shit!
Wait a second. You're gonna give your kid nightmares.
He
awesome,
picked it.
Dude. Are you kidding me?
He scrolled down and he found this and he picked this.
That's a sick.
He thought this was really cool, and I could not agree more. He is 7, and I was like, yes. Transcendental is the artist. And again, all of the art that we show in the show at the end of this is a recap thread on our Art First Twitter account, and you can go and click into all the artwork, so you can go and deep dive into our different artists. But yeah, no, this was surprising that he picked it, but he's also, you know, he's a cool kid. So
yeah, no,
but
such good fun.
It's got that kind of Akira vibe going on.
Yes,
I like the
very
fake
much.
Kodak, and the D-Gen seems to be like the Sega Genesis,
Yep.
Yeah,
font.
true.
Yep, and I saw those, and he asked me why there were so many eyes because he understood why this eye here
Yeah,
was unique.
there's an eye stuck in the neck. Yeah.
There's an eye in the neck and an eye here, and I said, "Well, I don't know. Why do you think there's an eye there?"
Oh,
Kind of went down that rabbit hole.
yeah, I wonder if it's AI or if it's illustrated. Tough to
I
know.
I don't know.
It feels illustrated to me. It
It
feels,
does. It's so
you know,
clean.
And
super
also, like,
clean.
if it wasn't, like DJet, like these things were definitely added intentionally, right?
Yeah.
But
No,
But
that's cool.
very cool.
I love the distortion on this one, but it comes back to what we were talking about before. This idea of like distorting a figure, and leaving parts clean, being very deliberate about
Mhm.
choosing what is clean and understandable as like a face or a part of the body, and like distorting it further and leaving pieces where you are meant to question, like, is the question, right, what we're asking is like, what about this, why these eyes? You can have a million and one answers for that. It could be that you're talking about divisions of consciousness, right? You could be talking about divisions of the soul and awareness within that. Like, it's just, there's a lot of room for, there's death, right, is in this painting, just from the inclusion of these bared teeth with no lips, and like, and this void created by the hair. Like, I've also just loved this stuff. This is my happy place of like
Yeah,
distorting.
distortion. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
cool, so cool. Yeah, from a
All right.
storytelling perspective, it can be amazing. It's
Yeah.
just beautiful.
Then let's go to Brian. Do you want me to go to one more of yours?
Sure. Yeah. Unfortunately, I gotta jump off in a few minutes, but so we'll go through mine, but then I'll rewatch your guys afterwards.
All right, Brian. Here's your third
Oh
one.
yeah, yeah. This one's a simple one, but it's a long journey. But I completed my Crypto Citizens Bright Moments collection. Shout out to the artist who created these for each city, and I'm gonna mispronounce the name, but it's like, it's a, yeah,
Is
it's
it Quinn?
Quinn,
I'm going to
maybe.
mispronounce it too. I'm gonna take a look.
Bright Moments set up these minting experiences in cities around the world. I was able to make it out to some of them, not all of them, but thankfully, shout out to people that, minted for me remotely. But, I'm just really proud of everybody involved in this. And as just a 10K project, it's a very good PFP collection that was handmade by this artist. And each, there's 1,000 variants per city over it. And I just think, they did an excellent job creating this and continuing to build up the lore around this project. And even though, we don't usually feature PFP type things on here, I view this as kind of its own art project. And some of these have generative music built into them. Some of them are animated. They're all over the place in terms of technology because they kept experimenting over the course of the different cities. So just a shout out and congrats to Bright Moments on completing their world tour.
It was very cool to see. Yeah, and I've never been to a minting, but I know it's cool that you can have a delegation mint for you on your behalf, and it's cool
Mhm.
that you can only get them in the cities that they or the initial mint is a live
Mhm.
theatrical performance. I mean, in and of itself, I always thought that was really cool.
So smart.
Yeah.
I've always liked stuff like that too, like geocaching and location specific
Yes.
experiences. But this, it's so funny. Like I love more like, how far can you stretch minimalism, right? And playful pieces. But like, to me, these pieces, because I've been seeing them around the space for the past couple weeks. For me, they remind me of, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with like Paranoia Agent at all. It's an anime that used to go on to Adult Swim, I think in the early aughts. Super cool anime, super cool intro where it's literally characters, centered composition, laughing, right? And they could be in just like incredibly dangerous situations. It's like, why are you just standing there like 11? But it's like in the middle of a busy street, in the middle of a nuclear plant and a bomb is going off in the background. You're underwater and you're laughing, right? All these things at different places, right? The house just got blown apart. But to see the characters, I don't know why in this position, in these spaces, like it just reminds me of that, of just this very like totemic moment of pure joy and like confidence. That's what these rock to me more than anything else. I really, really like these. But yeah, the one with the cars in the street is maybe my favorite.
Yeah, that one I think is that one's London.
Yep.
Yep. But yeah, well, unfortunately, I gotta jump off. I'm doing a space with my drop next week. But it was great to have you on the show, and I'm looking forward to the rest of this conversation to see what you guys share, because I'm sure they're going to be awesome. So apologies for leaving, but thank you for having. Thank you for coming on, and enjoy the rest of the show.
Of course, dude.
Thank you, Bryan. We'll be back. We'll see you next week.
Yeah. Cheers.
Yep. All right, Andres. We will. Let's see. What do we got? We got. Let's go to one more that you brought.
I think I've been one or two more. I'm pretty sure.
You have two more.
I'm curious which one you chose, because there's one that might not be safe for work.
We went with it anyway.
Oh, good.
So let's go with this one next. This piece here from Earth Sample.
Yes, Earth Sample. Oh, fantastic painter.
Moment of solitude.
Fantastic painter. Fantastic artist generally.
Yeah.
Yes, Earth Sample, another old friend. I'm not gonna dox him as much as this, for a variety of reasons. But what you might want to know about Earth Sample is Earth Sample literally, this is earlier Earth Sample work. A lot more of it has become significantly more digitally native, more motion animation. He's had several incredibly successful drops and successful pieces, and just a fantastic artist. He sources all of his, at least at this period of time and in the future, right? He sources all of the media that he collages himself. Wow. Earth Sample literally coming from him going out where he lives and taking pictures of flora, fauna, debris, and everything of the kind, putting it together.
Incredible. That's incredible. Yeah, look at that. I didn't even realize there was a figure in there.
You know what's funny? I was literally digging through, because pure full disclosure, I've collected all of my friends' pieces. I tend to, like, when I have a little bit of money, to pick up pieces from friends, and at the time it was the bull run, so I had enough money to spend and spend exactly how much my friends were worth at the time and now. And this is not the piece in my collection. I was literally just like, instead of doing the simple thing and going through Super Rare and just like looking and seeing what I had in my collection, I dug through the feed, and I found this piece, and I was always aware of this piece, and I didn't know why I liked it until I saw that figure. When I saw that figure, I was like, holy they're just hiding there, right? Like hiding there right in the Fibonacci spiral of a composition, like right there near that bottom corner.
Very intentional, right? Yeah.
Oof. Oh, yeah. Gorgeous. Where Anubis, to me, if going back to the classical elements of like earth, water, fire, air, spirit, earth is ironically not earth to me. Earth is very air. Like very airy, very meditative, very much about like clear thought or unclear thought. That tends to be a lot of what I see in his work. This one just hits because to me this is meditating under the tree. This is that classic archetypal thing of like getting to that peak meditation and seeing unity between disparate things, right?
Yeah.
And full clarity. This piece is just like, just beautiful.
Good share, man. Really good share.
Yeah.
I feel like I've come across their work a few times over the last couple of years, and I hadn't seen this one before.
He's awesome. He's very, very genuinely funny, super intelligent. But then I can say that about all my friends, you included. Like, I don't think I associate with any stupid and meaningless people in this, at least in my lifetime.
You make good decisions. I support this. Very cool, man. We only have a couple more left to go. Let's see here. Okay. There's this piece this piece here that my son found. Special creature number 7. I'm gonna mess up the name, but Mangren is the artist, and just talk about mixed media, fun stuff, right? Like it's just I don't know. For me, um, I love anything that has a mixture of flat 2D illustrations and painted 3D textural
Yeah.
illustrations. Like finding a place where the two can clash and meet. It's got a warm place in my heart, and so seeing this was. I don't know, is really a beautiful thing, and also having some words in there and some letters in there, and it
It's also
just
not far away from you, like your own work. That I love about it is like there's
it,
just this
it it
variety of
definitely feels
texture,
comfortable.
color. Like I just love that your son has great taste, by the way. But like for this piece, it's exactly that variety of texture, variety of color. Like
Yeah,
there's the spectacular gradients within the supposedly central creature, but also the like pitch blackness of the creature behind it, right?
right,
Um,
right. Just with that, with sort of like that hug that it's giving, but it's sort of hiding. If you didn't notice it the first time, like it took a while before I saw that little guy like back here,
I
and I love
mean,
all the eyes and the detail. Look
it
at
says
that.
more about me than it should, but like it is kind of vaguely sensual, like sexual. Like I'm sorry, it's just also the fact that this thing has like the little pubic hair quill spines, like all
Little dangly bits and
has
whatnot.
it has balls. I don't know what else to say. But I do like that, and that's to the piece's credit.
Yeah,
I like when I do like when again there's that sensuality, that somewhat erotic content, even if it wasn't intentional when it appears in the piece, is to the credit of the piece. Makes it a better piece. But like, yeah, I love how sweet this piece is as well. Right? Is like of all sorts of cool shit you could say about
yeah,
uh, archetypes, shadows, monsters, beasts, and it just makes me feel like a kid again. Like it makes me want to watch a show with these characters running around a screen.
yeah.
Wouldn't
It's
be out of
very
place in a Blue's Clues situation
yes.
or in an Adult Swim
It's
group.
definitely an Adult Swim version of Blue's Clues. That's
I'm cool
for
with it. I'm
sure.
cool with
Yeah,
it. Smiling Friends, yeah, like it's some
yeah.
weird Adventure Time type
Adventure
beat.
Time, right there. Love Adventure Time.
Yeah.
Speaking of somewhat sensual art, we'll
Here
go
we go.
to your last pick, and then we'll go. I've got one more after that. Here you
Uh,
go, sir.
so my
This is
last pick.
Everyone Loves Me.
This is Blues Pieces, and this was a piece that he released on um, on 01.
Okay.
Blue's a printmaker, collage artist, but he does these special prints. I'm gonna butcher it. I believe there's Xylene. You're gonna kill me if you're listening to this now. Xylene. I keep saying xylitol, but that's sugar. But xylene. I'm gonna say there's specific print method
It's a
that,
process. Okay.
yes, very process oriented artist. I was in between this piece, which again, it's very sensual, rooting it in for me the earth element, which is a lot of Blues work, right? It's one of the only pieces I know of that he's produced that has this like overtly internet and anime and erotic based content. It's not the only one that has to do with nudes and sexuality. There's some pretty risque and hysterical pieces he has. There's one that I remember went viral and even appeared on some sort of a trailer of a double penetration scene, but it looked like an abstracted thing. There's another
Okay.
one with the interior of a mouth, that this impossible mouth that is like a dog's fangs, but all in weird places, or like he he also has like same style, same texture of pictures of his son, a piece called You're My Favorite. um, but this one just sticks. I love the sensuality, the menace. There's a feeling of danger, right? The figure is disappearing, the mirage nature of like
Sure.
like like erotica, right? Like drawn.
Right,
this,
where
this
it's disappearing, and
yeah.
I like the process. I like the yeah, I don't it seems like it was physical, right? Physical printing, like seeing like Ben-Day dots, right?
Yep.
Seeing the
Yep.
actual printing process and seeing the tools that made the end result. Maybe it's digital, but it doesn't feel digital. It
Oh no,
feels
no, no.
very much in the physical world, and
He always it prints.
it's
It's
great.
always printed. The process is super important. He's another artist that is very magical. We've had just fantastic conversations on meditation and magic, and learned a lot from each other, and experiment with a lot of stuff. If you look at some of his pieces on top of the erotic things that have to do with sex and death, there's also bits and pieces that are very specifically to do with magic and seeing what symbols can fit where with
Mm.
what pieces, and how to use art as a means of manifesting things into reality. Um, yeah, it's just always an incredible conversation with him. And like I said, he's also a dad. So like, it's funny to see as time goes on, like what finds its way into the pieces, whether it's again dealing with sex, dealing with death, dealing with mysticism and religious objects, dealing with where he lives in New Mexico. Um, the creation of weird creatures through his collage. Right, he has a whole series called Servitors. A servitor, for what anyone knows, is exactly what it sounds like on the can. It's literally a spirit that you create to fulfill a certain task. He made them all in various different forms. There's flies. There's a little bunny with demon horns and wings, and like all sorts of cool kind of grungy stuff. I
That's
don't know.
cool.
For some reason, all this stuff feels very grounded. It feels like being on the lip of a volcano when I look at his pieces.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, he's great. He's fantastic. Yeah, it was tough to choose. Tough to choose a single piece. Honestly, that one right there with the building blocks is of his son. Right, it's just a lot of really cool stuff. He also does some incredibly beautiful cut up poetry. Like I said, the collage. There's a lot of collage in his work, and that includes in his writing. Yeah, just a lot of really cool stuff. I'm always excited to see when Blues puts out a new piece, just to see which of the bodies of work is going to belong in at the time. Yeah, super
That's
cool. Very unnerving in places, but also just like totally just beautiful.
that's okay. I mean, art is supposed to make you feel something, right? I mean,
Yeah, the crucifixions. I
I
did a
remember
couple
I
couple
remember that.
crucifixions. The
I
little
remember
big
the
devil
cruci
emoji
I remember
crucifix.
this.
Oh yeah, this
So good.
this and it belongs. I think this belongs very much. I think it was another 0-1 piece, but it belongs very much in that cadence of the Everyone Loves Me piece as
Yeah.
well. Like those belong very much together as like internet culture, and then rooting. It seems he's like pinning it down.
Yeah.
This is just
Yeah.
like this is what we're dealing with here, and then having a laugh at it. It's laughing in the face of danger is also a part of it
Ooh,
works.
that's a good way to put it. Laughing in the face of danger. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. He's awesome.
All
Awesome.
right. Very cool, Cher. Thank you, man.
Mm-mm.
I've got one more left that my kid picked out, and it is very different from
Like
all
how
of
you,
the.
you let him just have free reign. That's so cool, man.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
if
taking notes on this when I have my future lizards.
it's fun, man.
I can't even imagine.
Especially if we've been drawing together for years now. So anytime like we're doing art stuff together, it's
You
a ton of
you
fun.
and Blues sound so similar because they're again both friends that have kids and
Yeah.
they're artists, and they're both like, yes, like we're gonna have a place to like create. We sit down, we're gonna draw. You have your own. Yeah,
That's what we're gonna do.
gives his kid his own special place. He has his own
Love
little
that.
house within the house. And just like it's awesome. It's super cool.
Yeah.
Super cool kid too.
So yeah. So in that spirit, this is the last piece we got here. Irwin. Very different vibe, but I love it. And it's from an artist called Ghost Lords. Might actually just be the project Ghost Lords. I was not familiar, and then once we got in here, he liked it, and then he goes, "Oh, and it's got a really cool, tiny little mouth." I was like, it sure does, dude. It does. Look at that. And he was asking, why is there a fish hook in the ear? I'm like, I don't know.
I have the same questions as he
I
does.
don't know, but
Like
I mean,
this,
I think, and I could be wrong, but I think that is a start of or like a piece of a PFP, project. It's It's fun. I'll say that. They don't look like a
Cool
lot.
DJ shit.
It's totally degen, and it's just like, you know what? It's pretty rad. He would have loved this if he saw it because it's got a Pokeball
Oh,
in there.
yep.
Oh
That'll
my
do
goodness.
it. That'll do it.
I
Like these things, it's so funny because of what you can. I can't tell how many of these are hand done or how many which of the assets are they're assets that are hand done and they just switch them out.
yeah,
But yeah, I love how much character can be implied by what one of like a character is wearing
right.
or has. It's
Look
like
at
my
that.
first question was, "What's the deal with the fish hook, man?" And the knife on the. It's some of these ideas for these PFPs, man. It's just they get more weird as time goes on. I do like seeing that. It's like these like
That's
styles of horns.
yeah, but like I know, like you look at these, like I know some of these people.
King Toot.
Look at
NYC Dave. I like that he has a pizza. He's holding a pizza and the beer.
that. NYC Dave.
I get it, man. I do.
Yeah,
I wish I had the head for a true flavorful PFP project like this, but I don't know if I do.
that's okay. You swim in a very impressive lane as it is. So
Thank you.
I wouldn't stress on it. But man, let me
I
tell
could
you
have been
this.
the next pooping ladies, dude.
You could have
Here I
been.
am.
Oh,
Here I am.
you know, there it is. That's the missed opportunity. That was the alpha and the omega.
Could have made the next crypto dick bucks, but here we are, fumbling generational wealth.
I will say, I like that one more than most.
Yeah, it's my favorite one. It's my
They
favorite.
are
I think
fun.
The key is the fun. The fun is the key.
Yeah.
100% of the way. Yeah.
But yeah. So I mean, before we head out, I might as well ask, if there's anything that you want to plug that you got going on, that you got coming up, or that you're working on. Let
If I
everybody
could-
know.
I wish that I could flip my camera because I would be. Maybe I can just do this very unprofessional thing I'm about to do. I'm working on.
How dare you on this very professional show that we run?
Yeah, I'm working on I tend to work on a couple paintings at once, and I think it's only fair that you guys got to see some finished works. If it in an ideal setting, when when I have someone do it's the pandemic, do Zoom studio visits. Usually, what I do is do kind of what I did at the beginning. Is like show an unfinished drawing, followed by an unfinished painting.
Ooh, this is the alpha. Look at this.
Yes. So I essentially have two bodies of work going on at any given time these days on Super Rare. Seems to be my bread and butter. I love the team there, but like I've been releasing on there and it's been wonderful. I have one body of work that is my mainline paintings, which include what we talked about today with Ineffable Auction, which is like a 6/8 painting. It's usually a huge painting or a painting that took me like ages to finish on
Right.
that contract. And then there's paintings that belong on my other contract, which is called Everyday's Eternal, which are magical realism paintings, right? Or they're essentially small works. They're all hand painted. This is the third in that series. When we talk about something like magical realism, we're talking about the tradition in which like the strange and fantastical is very casual. Like it's kind of like every day in the afterworld. Like that's
Everyday
something that,
magic. Yeah.
yes, but in the land of the dreaming and the dead, right?
Right.
Like that thing. So I wanted to craft. I love music. I was raised in a musical household. My brother is a full-time musician. My father is a very good guitar player. My great grandfather a pianist, and my grandmother also a guitar player. So for me, guitar is very important. I've been making guitar paintings. I've been idling on guitar paintings for a little while. This will be my first one, I think, purely on chain here. Aside from there, I think it might be two others that they were fixtures, like in Ineffable Auction and another one.
Yeah.
But this one is this one's going to be called Guitarrista. It's going to be super beautiful. I've included also these two sigils, which essentially are just things that I want to bring into reality. So it'll be cool to see how they unfold. It'll be super neat. And then the other thing that I'm working on, again at the risk of being entirely unprofessional, is over here. Is this huge
painting here, which is the Mind Palace. This is going to be the next 6th painting, although it is taking absolute ages to finish up because it is also very character and detail driven. I was very influenced
Dude.
by I wanted to do the interior of a head. I love that. Like I said, I love distorting the figure.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do something inspired by the Guggenheim in a place where I would like to show my art. So you have like little details here, you know, like the little paintings on the wall, the big circular kind of like helix shaped stairwell. And then there's just little figures that I'm still kind of digging out as I go. So that is really what I'm cooking, what I'm going to be working on once we get off camera today.
Yeah.
Those are my pieces that are currently on the docket, as well as one that I'm working on probably later tonight that has to do with characters from previous paintings driving in a beautiful car. More wish fulfillment, right?
That's really cool that you're able to juggle so many different ideas at once, you know, and to be able to to switch between, because even though there's you're the common thread between all of them, they're very different in terms of their storytelling and their purpose. So I'd imagine that's probably keeps you on your toes quite a bit, and lets one thing spill into another. Maybe
it lets me I think definitely as I construct things, just like with ineffable auctions, sometimes characters will bleed into different pictures.
Yeah.
But they allows me to exercise my art in the 3 ways that I know how. I said it a little bit earlier. I'm still perfecting the way of saying it, but like again, art as a one-way mirror reflecting my reality, art as a 2-way mirror reflecting this reality and whichever other one I happen to be in at the time. The ones that I'm slowly, like the worlds I'm slowly constructing and excavating, because that is how they feel. They do feel like places where I can go, whether it's an invocation of an actual, like pagan classical goddess, like in Hecate, or whether it's parts of my own shadow. Like if I put them in front of me for long enough, I work on them, they will appear in my dreams and they will appear in meditation. And then finally, art as a magic wand, which is like using art to crystallize an intention for the reality that I want to live in. And the place where that worked with aplomb was in bringing my fiance into my life, right? With a little painting called Pink Moon that we can never sell. The crypto art is gone, but we can never sell. Adina's not letting me, but it was very specific in terms of like the kind of relationship I wanted to have. And so far,
I love that, man.
Working out over time.
You're just painting your own reality, man. I love that.
Exactly.
Good for
so
you,
again,
man.
Between those 3 things, right? That's really it. It's like the joy of discovery and the joy of making things happen.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, man. This I don't know whether it's real or not, but I genuinely hope that you have the clapper, because that is a piece of technology.
I can't reveal that secret. But
please don't reveal it.
I like how well timed it was, though. Honestly,
it was
well timed
beautiful.
Twice over.
Well, I want to thank you, Andres. This has been wonderful. You're the kind of artist that I'll speak for Bryan as well, that we could talk to for forever, and just keep on unearthing little nuggets of wisdom and magic. But I thank you so much for coming to the show and sharing with us and sharing with everybody your process. Yeah, I guess I'm not going to give Bryan any other last thoughts, but for me and for the show, I just want to thank you, and I want to thank everybody who watched it live, and for anybody who's catching it on the replay. But we will be back next week. My gosh, is it May next week?
Don't say these things to me. Don't say these terrible things.
Mac and cheese. It's May. Well, next week, I believe we're back with another painter. Actually, we're back. We'll be on with Jonathan Wolfe, an absolutely amazing painter. Very different style, and I can't wait to chop it up with him as well. But thank you, Andres. Thank you once again, and we will catch everybody in the next one. So,
thank you for having me, man. It was an
honor.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks so much, man. We'll catch you next time.